All right, guys, we got ourselves some crazy updates in the last 16 or so hours ever since President Joe Biden announced that he will be dropping out of the 2024 presidential race after getting tons of pressure from his own party, who basically made it very clear that they did not want him to be president. We got a lot of updates, and I want to give it to you guys. So it appears that the Democrats are now falling in line behind Kamala Harris, which, from a strategic perspective, I actually think is wise and good. So originally, we thought that Kamala Harris would have some political opponents who would challenge her for her, title of being the next Democratic nominee for president. And it appears that that is no longer the case because all of her top rivals who even stood a chance of possibly challenging her at the convention to get the Democratic nomination to become president have completely flipped and endorsed her. So Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, which you guys know I used to live there, she has now come out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, he has endorsed Kamala Harris. J.B. Pritzker, who is the governor of the state of Illinois, which I live in right now, he has endorsed Kamala Harris. You also have Andy Beshear, Wes Moore, Cooper, Kelly, Josh Shapiro, even Pete Buttigieg, who, in my opinion, is actually extremely intelligent. He's a very intelligent, well-spoken man, but he's not opposing Kamala Harris either. So a lot of the people in the Democratic Party who originally were thought to pose a significant challenge to Kamala Harris have now endorsed her. On top of that, ever since Kamala Harris announced that she would be, she actually didn't announce it, but ever since Biden announced that he would no longer be running for president, everybody just automatically pretty much assumed that it would be Kamala, which, yeah, Kamala's definitely running. Ever since that happened, the Democrats have raised $75 million through Act Blue after Vice President Kamala Harris launched her campaign. Now, for those who don't remember, it was originally reported that another big reason why Joe Biden needed to go was because the donors were actually making their pocketbooks. They were speaking with their money. They were using their millions of dollars in campaign donations to exert their power, and they made it very clear that we are going to close our checkbooks if Biden remains the nominee because we do not believe that Biden can win. Well, once Biden officially dropped out, they opened their checkbooks back up and they started to donate through Act Blue. Make no mistake about it. The $75 million that was raised through Act Blue last night was not through a grassroots campaign, which is funny because that's what Act Blue actually claimed. No, grassroots is like when everyday people like me and you donate like $15. That's not what happened. What happened was the rich people, the billionaires, the people in the Democratic Party, the big donors, they opened their checkbooks back up and they said, okay, we can get behind Kamala. We're not getting behind Biden, but we'll get behind Kamala. That is exactly what happened. Here's actually another interesting thing. It actually appears that Kamala Harris has completely ran away with the Democratic nomination. I'm not even 100% sure that we're even going to have some sort of broker convention or all these things that it's allegedly being leaked that Nancy Pelosi wants to do at the Democratic National Convention, which will be taking place in Chicago, because Kamala Harris is already like a fourth of the way there, basically. She already has 531 delegates who have already pledged their support. You got all these different states where they basically pledged all their delegates from that state to support Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. You got the state of Florida, New Hampshire, Louisiana, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland. You have a bunch of different states. Matter of fact, this 531 number is actually going up because I am still getting more alerts and seeing more tweets and news articles of even more Democrats from different states, delegates that are pledging their support for Kamala Harris. So essentially, Kamala Harris is going to be the Democratic nominee. Make no mistake about it. But one of the other interesting things that I'm not so sure you guys have heard, but I definitely want to make sure I mention this, a very interesting support that Kamala Harris is getting. Nikki Haley's Voters PAC has announced that they are supporting Kamala Harris. Now, what's interesting about that is obviously Nikki Haley is a Republican. She vehemently opposed Donald Trump, and Nikki Haley also completely flipped, by the way. First, she opposed Trump, and then she went to the RNC literally last week, and she actually endorsed Donald Trump. So I do want to make it very clear, this Nikki Haley's Voters PAC actually doesn't really have anything to do with Nikki Haley. What it actually is, it's a bunch of former staffers and voters and different things like that. Like basically former supporters of Nikki Haley. They were like, okay, well, Nikki Haley was our girl, but if Nikki Haley's not going to be the nominee for the Republicans, then we're just going to go for Kamala. That's literally all this is. But it's still funny funny because you basically have people who formerly supported Nikki Haley now supporting Kamala Harris, and they even have their own PAC where they're probably going to donate money to Kamala Harris, even though they formerly supported Nikki Haley. Very interesting. On top of that, you also have something that took place last night that I feel like a lot of mainstream media is not going to report, but a bunch of black women, as a matter of fact, 40,000 of them, yes, I'm not joking, 40,000 black women hopped on a Zoom call. And my mother was actually a part of that, by the way. My mother called me this morning and said, did you know that I hopped on a huge Zoom call with a bunch of black women last night to basically donate and support Kamala Harris? I'm like, no, actually, I didn't know that, Mom. Thanks for letting me know. So shout out to my mom for giving me that information. But I went ahead and verified that in the news, and it is true. Last night, there was a Zoom call that was held that was organized by black women on behalf of Kamala Harris. And that call had 40,000 black women on it, and they were able to raise $1 million in one night in support of Kamala Harris. This is good because what this tells me is this further reinforces what I've been telling you guys, that Kamala Harris should absolutely, from a strategic perspective, be the Democratic nominee since Joe Biden has dropped out. I think, I'll be honest, I think it's unlikely. Okay, I think it's unlikely that Kamala beats Trump. I do. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. Although I think it's unlikely, I do at the same time still believe that Kamala Harris has the best chance at this point in time of beating Donald Trump. Remember, we are less than 110 days until the presidential election. You don't have time to be all chaotic and losing your mind at the Democratic convention, walking around with your freaking like a chicken with the head cut off, trying to figure out, is it going to be Pritzker? Oh my God, should it be Newsom? Should it be Buttigieg? Just let Kamala Harris have it. Put your support behind her, unite behind her, and depending on what type of strategy you implement, you actually might win. So far, I like this strategy right here is we're going to heavily target black voters in southern states, and we're going to heavily try and get black women to put their support behind Kamala Harris. Remember, the main base of the Democratic Party is black women. The number one demographic that overwhelmingly votes for Democrats is black women. They vote for Democrats like 96, 97 percentile. It's crazy. It's like basically you walk on the street and you just ask any black woman, hey, you voting Democrat? Yep. Like literally, it's like that. Like they overwhelmingly support Democrats. So anyway, last thing I do want to say about this update is it's not exactly about who's supporting Kamala Harris. I mean, it is, but it isn't. I think the more important and interesting telling thing about this is who's not supporting Kamala. And if you look, you'll notice that many of her political opponents like Pritzker and Newsom and Whitmer had already said, I'm supporting you. I'm not running against you. We're good. But what you notice is Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and Hakeem Jeffries have not endorsed Kamala Harris. You see, this is the other side of the Democratic faction. These are the other people in power who are very good at raising money, talking to the donors, especially Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is very close with the donors and the people with the money and all those different things. And so this faction has not yet endorsed Kamala Harris. If you want my honest opinion, I believe that at some point they will. They haven't done it yet, but I think that at some point they will. Or they could decide to be stupid and be chaotic and say, well, we don't really think that Kamala's going to win. We want this guy or we want that guy. So, we're just going to hold out or whatever. Like I said, the whole thing is dumb. If Schumer, Pelosi, and Obama were smart, they would immediately come out and endorse Kamala and just completely unite the party behind Kamala. That's what I think should happen. But it hasn't happened yet, which is ridiculous. But we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, just wanted to give you guys that update regarding everything happening with Kamala Harris. So far, the party overall seems to be falling in line with Kamala Harris, except for, an exception to a few people. But, yeah, it looks like Kamala Harris is going to end up being the nominee. Oh, by the way, Kamala did speak today. I forgot to cover that because she didn't really say anything. Kamala actually spoke today for the first time since Joe Biden dropped out. And all she basically said was, Joe Biden is one of the greatest presidents ever. I thank you for everything you've done, blah, blah, blah. And then that was it. She spoke about, whatever the event was about. It was like something about sports or something. She spoke about that. And then that was really it. So I anticipate that at some point we're going to get an official speech from her talking about the fact that she's more than ready to take on Donald Trump. But overall, guys, I do want to say this. I think that Kamala being the new nominee since Biden has dropped out is kind of a breath of fresh air because now you have a lot more energy. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I don't know if you guys can kind of feel it, but the fact that she raised all this money last night, 40,000 black women jumped on the call. All these different people in the Democratic Party who originally were probably going to run against her at convention have officially endorsed her. I just feel like there's a new energy in the Democratic Party now that Kamala is the nominee. And you do have to remember, Biden has some sort of cognitive decline. He doesn't speak well. He misses his words all the time. Kamala is extremely well spoken. She's intelligent. It's even at the point where Trump is starting to backpedal. Trump literally made all these different posts yesterday on Truth Social where he basically said, well, I'm not doing a debate unless it's on Fox News. Notice he didn't say that until Kamala basically got the nod and Joe Biden dropped out. The reason why is because Trump knows, the Republican knows, and we all know that if him and Kamala go into a debate, Kamala will absolutely wipe the floor with him. She will destroy Donald Trump in a debate. So make no mistake about it, guys. Although I think that Trump will very likely be Kamala, I also do think at the same time that they're a lot more fearful, keyword on what I'm saying, I think they're a lot more fearful of Kamala than they are of Joe Biden. I think with Joe Biden, they knew for a fact they were just going to destroy him. The guy can't even speak, can't even remember what he had for breakfast last night, doesn't even remember that his son died. No offense, but he's old, okay? He's old. It would have been, he also has a very low approval rating. They had so many different things that they could have attacked him on, all these wars, inflation, high gas prices. Kamala doesn't really have that as much as Joe Biden does. So anyway, that's my update for today. That's the whole situation with the Kamala thing. Kamala will eventually be the nominee. It just depends on if the Democrats want to do this the easy way or the hard way. But regardless, Kamala's going to be the nominee. Might as well endorse him now. Yeah, that's today's video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.